Trump's second term proposals are sort of a recipe for economic disaster. Very bold promises, but if implemented, they will absolutely wreak havoc on the economy. And I want to take a deep dive into this because we are quickly heading towards a fork in the road. And there are two possibilities. One fork is Trump does all the stuff he promised and it crashes the economy. The other side to that fork is Trump abandons his campaign promises. Which one is likely to be worse politically for him? That's what we're going to talk about. Now, the reason that this is all coming up is that earlier in the show, we did this segment on low income Pennsylvanians are now worried. Hey, I voted for Trump, but the stuff he's going to do is potentially going to be terrible for me. He wants to slash all sorts of benefits for lower income Americans. If he does the tariffs, it's going to make prices go up. So what I want to propose to you is that there are only two options. Trump does all this stuff and it wrecks the economy, or he just ends up not doing it because he gets talked out of it. Let's talk about some of those ideas. Trump wants massive tariffs, up to 60% on Chinese imports. Once he said like 200%, crazy stuff. Universal 10% tariff on everything else. Canada, Mexico. It might sound like Trump's doing a big boy and protecting American jobs, but higher tariffs mean higher prices in the United States. You're going to pay more for everything from electronics to clothes. And other countries are also going to retaliate. Other countries are going to slap tariffs on American goods that we want to export. And what that's going to do is hurt American companies. When the American companies say, wow, we're selling 15% less to other countries because of the retaliatory tariffs, we don't need as many employees because we've got less business. And it will cause layoffs and it will cause job losses. And this is how trade wars work. Now, the irony here is that the people hurt the most by this are the same working class Americans who believe Donald Trump's promise that he was going to bring jobs back. They are going to be the ones paying more at the store while losing jobs. And so the low income Pennsylvanians we talked about earlier are right to be worried. This is textbook retaliatory tariffs and how failing to understand economic policy ends up hurting the very people that Trump says he's fighting for. He's not fighting for them. Remember the 2017 tax cuts? Trump wants to double down on that. Trump wants to cut corporate tax rates even more. He wants to extend tax cuts for the wealthy. It's great for billionaires. Elon Musk is thrilled. Vivek Ramaswamy is thrilled. But this is terrible for the deficit that they claim they will fix. The national debt, they say, is a red alert. Well, this is going to make it worse. And if you add more tax cuts and don't balance the books in any way, by their own understanding of economics, it's going to force the government to borrow more, meaning higher interest rates, slower growth, and the economic squeeze will continue. Trump voters in struggling communities were sold the idea that these tax cuts would trickle down. We talked last week about why that doesn't happen. The CEOs pocketed bonuses the last time we did this. Companies bought back stock to raise the price of their stock, and wages stayed flat relative to inflation. The people who cheered these tax cuts in 2017 are going to get hit in the same way in 2025. Maybe they'll realize that they've been duped, but the damage will probably be done. Now, Donald Trump is also pushing for the largest deportation operation in American history. It's cruel, of course, but economically, it's reckless. There are industries like agriculture and construction which rely on immigrant labor, documented and undocumented. You take it away, whatever the morality of it is, whatever the ethics of it are, you take it away, you'll have labor shortages. Labor shortages mean you've got to pay more to fill the job, which means the cost of construction goes up, which means the cost of the food by the time it gets to the restaurant or the grocery store has gone up, and it's going to hit consumer prices. The price tag for the mass deportation Trump wants to do, aside from the cost of the camps he wants to build and all of that, put that aside for a moment, the cost economically is going to be astronomical. And the kicker is that many of Trump's voters work in or depend on those exact industries. What happens when the crops rot in the fields because there aren't enough workers to harvest them? Well, the prices go up, the jobs get cut, and the people who chanted build the wall are going to be left wondering, why did the price of my raspberries go up even more? And as if the deportations weren't enough, Trump also wants to cut legal immigration, except he says the H-1B visas are good, except he thinks that that's what he uses, except he's using H-2B. It's a mess. But if Trump goes back to his previous position of cutting legal immigration, we have an aging population. We have fewer workers. We have Social Security and Medicare, which will be strained if that trend continues. So it's another short-sighted policy from Trump. Now, what's wild is how this how this policy over the long term imperils the economic health of the country without any of these MAGA people understanding it. What do I mean by that? Immigration has been a driver of U.S. growth for generations. Part of the reason the country is as economically productive as it is thanks to immigration. And yet you have a bunch of people who want to cut off immigration, which will only weaken the economy, and it will erode the very American dream narrative that a lot of these folks claim to value. So there's two possibilities. If Trump follows through, the economy will nosedive. If Trump backs off, he's again abandoning his core promises. Either way, you could say it's lose-lose, except it might not be. Because if Trump does this stuff and the economy suffers, they'll probably blame Democrats or pretend that the economy's fine. If Trump abandons the promises in order to help the economy, they will say, oh, it was because of Democrats that Trump wasn't able to do it. Either way, the Trump supporters are going to be sold a fantasy. And we shouldn't forget that Trump's base has been told for years, economic problems are always someone else's fault. Could be immigrants. It could be China. It could be Democrats. It could be the lab COVID came from. For a while, it was that. You name it. But when the economy tanks because of Trump's own policies, they're going to have to figure out who to blame. It's going to be all Republicans in power for the next 2 years. But I'm confident they will find a way to blame somebody else, because history tells us they always want a scapegoat other than admitting, damn, Trump really misled us. This isn't just about Trump. It's understanding how policy decisions ripple through the economy. And very often they say America first, they say tax cuts, they say tariffs, they say, oh, it sounds like stuff. It'll probably fix everything. The slogans don't pay the bills. And so I don't know whether this will be apparent enough in time for Democrats to make strong arguments for the 2026 midterms. I don't know that the MAGA electorate at this point is even willing, other than we've got these sporadic Republicans against Trump that we've talked to. Okay, they figured it out. But for the most part, people don't want to acknowledge I've been duped, and none of it's going to be the way I was told it was going to be. Classic Trump scenario: big talk, disastrous execution, blame somebody else no matter what. We're going to see it quickly. I think we'll see it in January. We won't even need to wait till February before we see it. Speaking of January, Wednesday, January 1st, we'll be doing a single day membership special. If you've been saying, maybe I want to support the show, especially given the upcoming opposition that needs to be developed, we are going to do a one-day membership special on Wednesday. If you'd like to be added to the discount membership list, to get an email on Wednesday telling you how to sign up, email info@davidpakman.com and say, put me on the list. I will see you on the bonus show. We will talk about another Democratic defection, homelessness, and so much more. You can sign up at joinpakman.com. I'll see you then, and we'll be back here tomorrow with the final show of 2024. Well, I wrote a book after a long journey and a ton of work. I am really thrilled with how it turned out, and I hope you'll read it. The book is called The Echo Machine, and in a nutshell, it looks at how American politics got so broken, who has already figured out solutions, and how we can try to fix it and stop the terror of Trump for the next 4 years. With Trump winning this election, The Echo Machine couldn't be more relevant, not only a warning about how we got here, but also about what might be coming and how to prevent the worst outcomes.
We've got to stay engaged. We need a plan, and that's what the book is about. There's a belief out there that unless you have corporate media behind you, you can't have a successful political book launch, that it's not possible. I think we can prove that wrong. Order the Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, anywhere that books, ebooks, and audiobooks are sold. You can also call any local bookstore and say, please order me The Echo Machine by David Pakman. Wherever you get the book, you'll get the free pre-order perks, including the signed book plate. Head to davidpakman.com/free book stuff after ordering.